Yeah, I've talked about this publicly before. I was not someone who, as a young person, said, I want to be president. I wanted to be a basketball player, architect. There were a bunch of different things. Politician was not on the list. The way I came into it, I was inspired by social movements. I was inspired by, in particular, the civil rights movement that I had been too young to participate in. My role models were people like Bob Moses and Diane Nash and the Freedom Riders, and then after I'd started community organizing and then went back to law school, this is a moment when solidarity is rising in Poland, right? And the Berlin Wall is coming down, and Tiananmen Square is happening, and the people power in the Philippines, and so you're seeing a sense of ordinary people rising up and taking control of their lives and overthrowing oppressive structures and systems, and so that's what excited me. But what I also recognized, studying with smart professors like you, and doing a little reading. By the way, for young people here, reading. It's outstanding. Cat videos and TikTok's great, but every once in a while, picking up a book. What you came to recognize is that the success of the Voting Rights Act or the Civil Rights Act was first and foremost the courage and tenacity of generations of freedom fighters and the Civil Rights Movement and Dr. King, but it was, in the end, also Lyndon Johnson. As flawed and tragic a figure as he was in a lot of ways, his capacity to overcome the constraints of his background and his politics as a Dixiecrat, and then say, you know what, at this moment in history, I'm going to help make this happen. That was important too. And figures who aren't famous in the Justice Department who made sure that the federal government weighed in on the side of equality and freedom. And that, I think, continues to be the recipe for change when our democracy is working. I do believe the most important office in a democracy is the office of citizen, that change happens because ordinary people get together and reimagine what their lives could be and push on the system. But I also think that you have to have people inside that system that can translate those impulses into laws and institutional practices. And you know, I've been on both sides of that equation, and there have been times once I was in office where I got pushed, and sometimes it was annoying to me, but it was necessary. And it was sometimes necessary for me when I was on the outside and I pushed to hear that those who were working within government or in politics, it was important for them to be able to explain that you're not the only interest group, you're not the only constituency. There are other equities, and so we have to balance those equities. That's part of our job. And that, I think, is how a healthy democracy works. And unfortunately, I think both outside government and inside government, sometimes we get so cynical or we want maximalist outcomes. We want all of what we want all the time, right now, and that's not how in a big, complicated, messy, noisy country like this, our democracy is going to work. Everybody has to figure out that push and pull that over time incrementally leads to extraordinary progress.
Can I push back on that?
Of course. See? It's happening already.
I'm curious in this moment in which we are currently living.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, it feels as though the people who are speaking up and trying to change our society are not, in fact, being heard, and that change is coming not from outside the system, as you suggest, but rather from within the system.
Oh, well,
and I wonder
you were asking me about what it felt like for me coming up.
Oh, well, I did
You didn't ask me about what the heck is going on right now. Now that's a whole nother...
No. I did have...
That's a whole nother kettle of fish.
I did have how is this changed now that you're out of office?
During my presidency, I didn't hear the out of office thing. It's changed a lot in the last few years, yeah.
Well, but I agree with you, actually, but the premise that the way you create change in a democracy comes from below and not from above, I continue to think is solid. Are you rethinking that?
No, I'm not rethinking at all. But what we're also witnessing is that when the system is captured by those who, let's say, have a weak attachment to democracy, are not, I don't even think that's a controversial statement at this point. No, I'm actually being serious now. It was a controversial statement. Now it is self-acknowledged. I mean, if you follow regularly what is said by those who are in charge of the federal government right now, there is a weak commitment to what we understood, and not just my generation, at least since World War II, our understanding of how a liberal democracy is supposed to work. And when I say liberal, I don't mean left. I mean liberal in the sense of believing in rule of law and independent judiciary and freedom of the press and freedom of assembly and protest and compromise and pluralism. All those institutional norms and laws that were embodied in the Constitution imperfectly and then over time were expanded so that we had a basic understanding of, like, I can't just be picked up on the street and hauled off to another country. That wasn't a partisan view. That wasn't a Republican or a Democratic notion that shouldn't happen. That was an American value and norm. And so what I believe it continues to be that there has to be responses and pushback from